Hey, I want to thank you for being a guest here at CALMClass.com. This website is dedicated to one thing: to be able to give you a different mindset. To be able to stay calm in tough times is by changing how you think, because when you change how you think, it changes how you live. My name's Dwight Bain. I'll be your host through most of these lessons, but I'm really glad that you found us. I'm really glad that you're taking time out to watch a lesson that will be life-changing. So do this. Take good notes. Download the study guides. Let these life application principles make your life a better place. And then would you let us know how this is helping you? My thanks to you for watching. My thanks to our incredible team for making it happen. But most of all, my thanks to God, because He gives us principles that will change our life if we use them. Are you ready? Let's get started. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you for the chance to be together with these friends, those that join us online at CALMClass.com. Because of the technologies, we have a chance to learn together. And the topic today is a tough one that we don't like to think about, one that we don't like to talk about, but one that's essential. God, I pray that you would use this lesson to change hearts, but please start with mine. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen. His name, Superman. The Man of Steel. Superman was a comic that started in 1938. By 1940, because Superman was unstoppable, they'd introduced the one thing that could stop Superman. What was it?
Kryptonite.
Kryptonite. And with kryptonite, I mean, it just left Superman a quivering mass on the floor. Here's a Superman who had one thing that would stop him. This is from BuzzFeed. Sorry, this is from the Atlantic magazine. Everyone's got their kryptonite. Everyone's powerless in the face of something. Sex, drugs, money, these are the high-end character flaws. But just as Superman's classic writers made real kryptonite into something bigger than it deserved, we all have kryptonite, although ours isn't usually one big thing. It's small things, like napping when we should be working, watching Friends reruns, or eating jelly donuts. And instead of doing the work that we should do, we bargain with ourselves, it's not that bad. And when you think about kryptonite, and you think about the whole issue of Superman, it got me thinking about somebody way before 1938. His name was Achilles. And as you'll see, there's a battle scene from the war for Troy. That war was 10 years long. Here's what we know about Achilles. In Greek mythology, he was the son of Peleus, his mom, and he was the bravest, handsomest, and greatest warrior of the army of Agamemnon in the Trojan War. According to Homer, the Roman poet, Achilles was brought up by his mother and his cousin. One of the tales of his childhood relates that his mom dipped Achilles in the waters of the river Styx, by which means he became invulnerable except for the part of his heel, by which she is said to have held him as she dipped him into the river and then pulled him out. All right, so he's basically bulletproof except for one spot on his heel. Now, if you follow the story along in the Troy Wars, Achilles kills Hector. And after he kills him, he drags his body behind his chariot around the city to make a statement. In the process of doing that, because you kill my brother, right? You have to come after you. So Hector's brother, Paris, pulls a bow, shoots an arrow, and it hits Achilles where? Remember, he's bulletproof. Hits him in the heel. What happens to Achilles? Dies, bleeds out. Now that's Greek mythology. That's 3,000 years ago. But you know what? Everybody has an Achilles heel. Everybody has an area of weakness. And I mean, you go down. If you'd hit Achilles here, bounces off. If you'd hit Achilles here, bounces off. He was bulletproof except for one place. And here's the point for you and I in Calm Class. There are some people in this room, You could put a bottle of Jack Daniel's sipping whiskey from Tennessee, Lynchburg, Tennessee, not Lynchburg, Virginia. Lynchburg, Virginia, Liberty. Back when I was a Liberty student, people say, where do you go to school? I would say Lynchburg, and they'd go, oh, Jack Daniels. Yeah, my two favorite Daniels, Jack and Charlie. I would say, no, Lynchburg, Virginia, Jerry Falwell. And they would go, oh, then you know, no, this is totally different, totally different. You could put a bottle of Jack Daniels, and for some people, that would be totally distracting. Other people, they could sit there for 50 years. Wouldn't be tempting at all. For some people, you could put a Ziploc bag of a substance. It's not my Ziploc. I don't know. I'm just holding it for a friend, right? You could take a Ziploc bag of marijuana, and for some people, they would be totally distracted. And other people would go, why would people spend their time and money on that? You could put a pornographic magazine, depending on the gender or the orientation, and for some people, they would say, that's just gross. Why would people get distracted by that? For other people, they'd be totally tempted. You could put a big old stack of lottery tickets or a free trip to Las Vegas, and some people would say, the house wins. Why would I spend my money on that? For other people, it'd be totally distracting. You could put down judging other people. That's a big one that religious people like to do. You know what? I'm not bad, but these other people, they're really bad. You could put down judgment, hypocrisy. You could put down rage, resentment. You could put down verbal violence. There's some people that would never, ever even think about yelling, screaming, cussing at their kids. But last night in a store, walking into a store, I heard somebody just cussing the fool out of their little kids. I mean, bad language. Now, I don't know if it was a parent. I did that once where I saw somebody doing that, and I said, you need to talk to your children more respectfully. And they got all worked up, and I thought I was going to get beat up. Because in a public parking lot, guess what? In our state, here in Florida, it's not against the law to cuss your kids, in public or in private. But there's some people that would never, ever think about doing that. Some companies, you could put big box, $1,000 cash in it, they would never steal it. For other people, they would be so tempted to steal that money. Here's the point. Everybody's Achilles heel is different, and the Bible tells us that Satan sends fiery arrows. He launches fiery arrows. Do you think that he launches those fiery arrows at your strength, at the thing that bounces off? Or do you think that he's a very good marksman and he just focuses on your heel, the Achilles heel, that he knows will cause you to stumble? If your thing is buying stuff when you know you don't need it or have the money to buy it, you think that Satan's going to tempt you to go out and have some, crazy experience, spring break, Cancun? Or do you think that Satan's going to say, they're not going to be tempted by that? So I'm only going to tempt them with religious hypocrisy, thinking they're better than somebody else. I'm going to tempt that person with materialism. I'm going to tempt that person with greed. I'm going to tempt that person with being bitter about what happened to them 17 years ago, and they're still mad about it. There's some people that had something happen a long time ago. In fact, the average length of time for a workplace shooting, from the time that somebody's fired, frequently fired with cause, fired because they didn't do their job, the average length of time for a workplace shooter to be fired and then come back to kill their manager or the supervisor who fired them is 2 years. So they sit at home for years brewing and stewing about how mad they are that they got fired. That manager ruined my life. Instead of maybe, no, you just didn't show up to work on time. 10 times, strike 10, you're out. They don't think that. They brew and they stew. And here's the point. Satan does not launch an arrow at your strength. Never going to happen. If you're not prone to be tempted by gambling, that's not going to happen because that's not your Achilles heel. But if you're prone to really still be mad about something that happened to you in high school, the Stephen King book, never read it, know the synopsis, Carrie, that was his breakout story, was of a girl that had a bad high school experience and came back to kill everyone. And you say, well, that's just a silly, horror novel. No, there's actually a lot of people that are still mad about what happened to them in high school. And they still brood about it, and they're still upset about it. And that's where Satan will exploit you. Your Achilles heel, you need to know where it's at, you need to know what it is, so you can do something about it. Now, if you'll take a look in your study guide, what can we learn from Greek mythology? Number one, you are in a battle. Number one, you are in a battle. You're in a battle, the Bible plainly says, whether you want to admit it or not, you're in a battle. And in a battle situation, here's what I want you to know about the Achilles heel. Everybody has one. I mean, turn to somebody at your table and say, you have an Achilles heel. Just try it. Just, you have an Achilles heel. Now, everybody has an Achilles heel. Does everybody have to stumble because of it?
No.
No. I had an opportunity, actually it was out with the United States Army, in a tank simulation facility, which has full-size M1A2 Abrams tanks. Full-size tanks that you actually, you climb in, full size. Armored Bradley vehicles, just a whole, literally, this whole like big cavernous, bigger than multiple gymnasiums of these full-size tanks. They're done by computers, and there's hydraulics, so they move and rumble just like a tank, 72-ton vehicle. And they said, I was speaking for the Army, and they said, would you like to be a tank captain? Oh, pick me, pick me. Video game, full-size video game, 72 tons. And they said, so we're going to do a simulation, you against a second-generation Russian tank. Second generation means I should have easily won. All right, so there's a gunner in those tanks. There's a tank captain. You put your helmet on. There's earphones because it's rumbling. It's just as loud as a real tank. In the simulator, there's a panel where you can select which weapon you're going to then load into the front, the cannon on the tank. You've got your side cannons, 50 millimeters, and then there's a driver down below, 72 tons. 72 tons. And I got all situated, and they said, are you ready for the simulation? I said, ready. They counted down. 3, 2, 1. And they had briefed me on what to do, and so I'm starting to look at my screen, the radar screen, to see where the enemy tank is at. And of course, I'm talking to them the whole time on this little microphone thing. And I said, I can't see my screen. They said, it's because you're on fire. I said, I'm a what? They said, you're on fire. Your tank has been taken out. I said, I thought you said this was second generation Russian. And they said, yeah, but you turned your tank sideways. All of the armor on a tank is in the front. The front of one of our tanks, our military tanks, if it gets hit front, head on, if it gets hit by a missile, if it gets hit by a bomb, keeps on trucking. It just rolls right through it, no problem. Oh yeah, if you hit it on the side, not much armor there. There's enough armor to protect it from a machine gun blast, but not enough armor even from a grenade. You can stop a tank. Our tanks. Our tanks were designed to only go into battle forward. Now think about the attack of Satan against us. The Bible tells us to put on the helmet of the assurance of our salvation, to put on the breastplate of righteousness, right living, to put on the belt of truth, to be able to live truthfully, to be able to cover our feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace, to be able to have in one hand the sword of the Lord right here, Word of God. What do I have in my other hand? The shield of faith, so that it may quench all the fiery darts, my faith, all the fiery darts of the wicked one, boom, falls off. And when I think about, this is called the whole armor of God. All right, Bible scholars, but what does the Bible say that we have on our back? Nothing. So how are we supposed to face a battle? When Satan is trying to attack us, how are we supposed to face the battle?
We're supposed to face it.
Head on. Face it. Because if you turn and run, you're going to get taken down. So if your issue is fear and worry about money, if you face that head on, Scripture teaches that God will provide for us. God will meet your needs. Give us this day our daily bread. But if I start worrying, OMG, God's not going to take care of me. Or worse, OMG, the government's not going to take care of me. And you start worrying, and you start running from your fear, and you start running into food, or media, or entertainment, or tobacco, or whatever you use to escape, you're vulnerable. And you're going to get taken down. And you're going to struggle with the same old sin, the same old problem, and think, why am I so weak? You're pointed in the wrong direction. Let me show you back in your study guide. You lose the battle if you don't take action against character flaws. You will lose the battle if you don't take action against your character flaws. Look at the quote from Lauren's quote, I'll just say. We're all flawed, my dear, every one of us, and believe me, we've all made mistakes. You've just got to take a good hard look at yourself, change what needs to be changed, move on. So here's some basic facts about character flaws. Number one, we all have character flaws. You have character flaws, I have character flaws, all God's children have character flaws. Your flaws are not better or worse than my flaws. All right? All sin is the same. And this is where religious people get in trouble, because sometimes they want to say, well, you know what? I may judge people and say they're not good, but at least I don't chew tobacco. I mean, my mama taught me when I was growing up. Pat, you'll appreciate this. When I was growing up here in the South, boy, you don't dance and you don't chew and you don't go with girls who do. And I want you to know, Pat, I have held true to that. I have never one time gone out with a girl who chews tobacco. Not once. I listened to my mama. Maybe a few that didn't have teeth, but they did not chew tobacco. Character flaws are hard to spot until they're under pressure. Character flaws are hard to spot until they're under pressure. And when you put pressure on a system, use a different word. Use a different word. Write the word. See where it says pressure. Maybe think, just think stress. You put a system under stress, you put a system under pressure, and you can spot the flaw. So if someone's Achilles heel is money, by the way, financial fears account for 26%. Last week we saw 26% of the people that have anxiety disorders in the U.S., 1/4 of the anxiety disorders are attributed to one single cause, financial fears. Financial fears. And the Bible has a cure for financial fear. It's called faith. Yeah, but will Jesus take care of me 20 years from now? There's no Bible verse that says that. It says he'll take care of you today. And so if you focus on the system of God's Word, and I realize that for me, if I would spend as much time, and because I've traveled a little bit, I've found that the most important thing that you need when you travel is not your smartphone or your laptop. You need to plug. Because if you've ever had to buy a plug at an airport because you forgot your plug, you could have bought another phone cheaper than it would be to buy the plug. Man, they just hold you hostage.
They got you.
And I found, and Pat, this is a good tip I learned from a friend of the National Speakers Association. Those little 3-way plug splitters, you plug it in, and then there's 3 little outlets. I travel with one of those now because you can meet some wonderful friends. Because when you're plugged in, into a wall socket at O'Hare, and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, you've already used the plug," I'll say, "Let's be friends. I have a plug splitter." And I've met some wonderful people because we're sharing Chicago O'Hare's electricity. It's not like it was my electricity to start with, right? And I thought, if I would be as concerned with staying charged up spiritually as I am concerned about keeping my cell phone charged, man, you talk about being ready for the battle, facing the battle. Because if you spend time here, those arrows bounce off. You spend time here, your shield of faith grows. This is the Word of God. And so when Satan tempts you, however you're prone to be tempted, boom, bounces off. Because you're strong here. But sometimes, I've done this, maybe you haven't. I've been, just really worried, like, oh my gosh, I'm down to, 10%. I've got to go find a place to plug in. And wouldn't it be great if there was a way to go, okay, let me check my pulse here. Okay, I'm down to 10% spiritual strength. Ooh, I need to plug in. I need to plug in. We know that the average church-going Bible believer in the United States spends about 20 minutes a week in the Bible. Average church member, about 20 minutes a week. They spend more time than that watching television. They spend more time than that, just being stuck in a line in traffic somewhere. You know what? You can take your Bible with you. But I know this. Under stress, under pressure, the character flaws come out. You don't believe it? Get stuck in traffic. Watch how other people behave. Now, I've given you some ideas, but I think there's a lot more. So under stress, under pressure, what do you think are the biggest Achilles heels, the biggest problems? Is it sex, drugs, and rock and roll? Is that the biggest thing that people struggle with? And in particular, people that go to church. What do you think are the biggest hidden sins, the biggest Achilles heels of church-going folk? What do you think it is? Let's take a couple minutes and talk about it. If you're new to our class, this is a chance for you to learn the names of everybody at your table. I mean, it's polite to be able to say, hi, my name is. You introduce yourself, and then you talk about the topic. What's the biggest Achilles heels of church-going people? What do you think it is? You think it's chewing tobacco? What do you think it is? Take a couple minutes, find out. Go. What are the Achilles heels, do you think, of most church-going folk? What do you think? What were you talking about at your tables? Heard a lot of laughing.
We said anger is something that's
Anger?
hidden. People don't acknowledge it often, but we said that was a strong one.
Lack of faith.
Lack of faith.
We mentioned being judgmental,
Wow.
as well as being selfish. You can really tell by the way people drive nowadays how selfish they are. No, seriously, and I'm not talking about I-4. Yeah, and it's, and Mike mentioned having the right model in your life to go to as a resource, so you're not like that, where you have the opportunity to make changes.
I've got enough Achilles heels for a centipede, but
I'll quote you on that. That's good.
but at the head of the list is pork skins.
Temptation.
Temptation. Boy, that's a good one, and a good one as we wrap up this segment, because you know what? Everybody in this room has temptation. When you turn to somebody at your table and say, you have temptations. Now, I know some of you probably, you look at me and you think, I know it's in the back of your mind, you think, that Bane, he sings like one of the Temptations. I mean, he just... I won last week during this training, because you're dealing with different crisis things. They had a section where we were supposed to do a skit to illustrate something. And I did mine with my my ball cap turned sideways. And I did a rap of, hey, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind, hey, Mickey. And I won, I think, because other people said, we didn't expect you, there's like, 15 people there. They said, we didn't expect you to do a rap. And I said, well, you laughed. And they said, it's because we didn't really expect that. And I said, you didn't expect I had this kind of talent. They said, no, that wasn't. Hey, Mickey, you're so fine, blow my mind. Hey, Mickey.
They could probably incorporate that with the...
See, maybe my temptation is thinking I'm the next American Idol. Maybe that's the temptation, that's coming at me. It's like, he's so talented. I know I could be a singer if I could just get to Nashville. I know, with a guitar on the side of the road, I'm sure people would throw pennies at me. I'm convinced of it. All right.
You still do the sprinkler?
Yeah, really. Character flaws are hard to spot, but under pressure, not hard to spot. When life does not turn out the way you want, and there's stress and there's pressure, I promise you, you'll know what your Achilles heel is. You'll know what the character flaw is. It'll be right there front and center. As you take a look at this, look at the fourth principle. In a crisis, character flaws make everything more complex. In a major crisis, a shooting, a natural disaster, when people have character flaws, that this Red Cross shelter should be about me and my family. You know, we want the bottled water first. We want the ice first. We want, access to medical care first. And you know what? It's not about you. Isn't that the first sentence in Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life? It's not about you. Turn to somebody next to you and say, it's not about you. Not about you. Not about you.
I'm so great.
I heard that. I heard that. It's not about you, it's about me.
It's not about you. It's about
Be careful. I mean, my hearing in this ear is pretty good. The other ear, not so good. This ear, like a hawk. When I take a look at it, the next principle. Character flaws reveal our desperate need for God. Character flaws reveal our desperate need for God. And in some ways, that's why, why would God allow Adam to go to the garden knowing that when it came to temptation from Satan, pretty much bulletproof. What was his Achilles heel? Pleasing his wife's approval. Satan did not come and tempt Adam. Adam had walked with God for a very long time. But Adam had this new girl, her name was Eve.
New girl.
So,
New girl.
yeah, implying that he had other girls. No, he had one girl, her name was Eve. Thank you, Chairman. It's like,
He had the first
how many
girl.
did he have?
He had the first one.
Well, there was Sarah Beth, and she just didn't work out.
He's been getting ribboned ever since.
So,
That's
he
right.
had this girl named Eve, and he wanted to please her. And remember, Adam was standing there when Satan was doing the temptation deed. Adam was right there. If Adam had stood up and said, Satan, you leave my wife alone, we'd still be living in a garden. Stories told that Adam was walking with his boys one day, and they were walking along years afterwards, and they see this fantastic garden. Because remember, until the flood, it was there. It was guarded by angels, but you couldn't get in. And his sons kept saying, that looks fantastic. What is that? And he would say, son, don't bring it up. It's a difficult subject. And finally, they said, Daddy, what is that place? And he said, well, that's the Garden of Eden, and we used to live there till your mother ate us out of house and home. The Pat Williams joke book for speakers never fails. Never fails. Every single time, Pat, I've used jokes from your joke book many times, and the audience many times will throw things at me. It never fails to get a response. Not always a positive one. Okay. Character flaws. Oh my goodness. Why did God let that happen? To show how desperate we need Him. The next principle, a real friend will tell you the truth about your character flaw. If you're in a healthy relationship, people will tell you the truth. For instance, let's just practice this because we've got a group of friends here today. Just with the people at your table, just somebody maybe that you haven't talked to yet, just tell them you have issues. Just try that. Alicia, you have issues. All right, now practice it with me. Practice it with me. Back at you. Yeah, baby.
I think we all know we have it.
See, isn't that therapeutic? Just to be able to say, Larry, you have issues. I mean, it's just, let's make a list. All right, but remember, if you have healthy people in your life, and I've given you a chart at the bottom of the page. See that? It's called a blind spot matrix. Because if you're a person in leadership, you have known weaknesses. These are the things that you know that you don't know. You also have known strengths. These are the things that you know what you know. Okay? All right, so on that level, these things are internal, and these are the areas that you know what you don't know, a weakness. For instance, I know that I don't know how to fix the transmission in a car. Don't know how to do that. Okay? But known strengths, I know what those are, at least I think I do, right? Here's the problem. Because the problem is these blind spots. The blind spot of the things that you don't know what you don't know, and the unknown strengths that you don't know what you know. Now, not to confuse you with the words, but there are strengths that God put inside of you that you don't know unless you're under pressure. And you need other people to be able to say, you know what, Maria, you're really good at that. You can do this. And to be able to say, this is something and many times it's a friend, a family member, a parent who will come alongside and they'll say, Jim, you can do this. I know this is in you. It's below the level of awareness, but the people around me who care for me can point that out. And I have to trust them to be able to say, really, do you think? And so many times we'll see, especially with young people, they'll say, I didn't know that I could do this, but my mom, kind of pushed me into it. Michael Phelps didn't think her son would be the greatest swimmer. She wanted her son to have an activity to help with his ADD, so he would be tired at the end of the day. And with his ADHD, she saw he's a pretty good swimmer, and the coach said he's a pretty good swimmer. And then she became his biggest fan, not his dad, but his mom. She saw an unknown strength because he came to be, 6'6", in height, size 14 foot, like a natural flipper, arm span of 7 feet, and she became, and still is, and his sister as well, biggest fans. People close to you can see your strengths. If you trust them, you'll listen to them. People close to you, and here's the hard one, especially for nice people. People close to you, they can see the weaknesses too. They can see the weak spots. When I speak at an event in different places, and somebody will come up and say, Bain, you really missed it on this one. They're my favorite people because they're able to say, you may not realize it, but in this particular setting, here's a piece of information you didn't have. Now, I'm not completely happy with the person who invited me who didn't tell me, oh, by the way, the last person here, talked about this or did that and it was not received well. I need that information. Or for them to come up and say, what you said wasn't helpful. I appreciate that critique. I don't take it as a criticism. Because see that one that says blind spots? You don't know what you don't know. You don't know. So you need people in your life who speak truth. And that could be pastors, it could be friends, it could be family. But if you don't have somebody to help you with that zone, because that zone, that's going to be your greatest Achilles heel. And haven't we seen sometimes leaders, religious leaders, and they're just zooming along, something Pastor Youth says, you never see the fall in somebody's life, you only see the crash. Because the fall, that erosion's been going on for a long time. The crash, you'll see that. That's what makes the news. Scandal. You never see what's been under the surface. And that's why we need people in our lives who will speak truth to us. As you take a look at it, ignoring your character flaws leads to total destruction. Ignoring your character flaws leads to total destruction. Your Achilles heel will ruin you. Just like kryptonite would ruin Superman, just like an arrow from a lesser warrior. Paris was not a good warrior. His brother Hector was the warrior. That's why in the Iliad and the Odyssey, as it talks about Achilles, it was such a shock. Wait a minute, he got taken down by Paris? This guy who could stand up against anything got taken down by one arrow? What? But how many times have we seen someone and they get taken down by greed or power or some type of sexual issue? They get taken down, my goodness gracious. Brian Williams, the newscaster, made up a story. He was in a Black Hawk helicopter, but his wasn't fired on. The one an hour after them was fired on. And why would you tell that story? I'm still trying to figure it out. Cost him his job. Cost him his credibility. So for some people, their Achilles heel is, I am the great and mighty Oz. And their Achilles heel is fame. Some people it's fortune. Some people, their Achilles heel is fear. And they're just scared of everything. As you take a look at this, character flaws don't change much over time. If you've never, ever been tempted by greed, then you're probably not ever going to be tempted by greed. But if you get seriously tempted by pornography, or seriously tempted by some kind of judgmental thing, I'm better than these other people, then that's what you may be struggling with your whole life. If you're tempted with fear, remember financial fear is the number one in our country. If you're tempted by fear, you may never ever be tempted to steal from Walmart. You know, to be able to walk into a 7-Eleven and shoplift. But believe it or not, the single biggest thing that cost Walmart profitability, it's not competition, it's not Amazon.com, it's shoplifting. Mostly from their employees, internal theft, employee theft. Same with the Walt Disney Company at the theme parks. Biggest thing that hurts their profitability, internal theft. Employees stealing from the company. You say, well, they're going to get caught. If that's your character flaw, that's what you're going to be struggling with. It doesn't change much over time. So take a look at this. Most of us are totally unaware of how bad the flaws appear. But if you want to know how bad your character flaw appears, just ask your spouse. Ask your kids. Do I drive like a road rage idiot? Yes, Daddy, you do. I mean, you may see a lot of children on the side of the road on the way home from church today because they told their parents the truth. My favorite Ken Davis things. Ken does this he's a Christian comedian, and Ken does this sketch of questions that parents ask that they do not want the answer to. Parents will say, "What, do you think I'm stupid or something?" And it's like, Daddy, do you really want me to answer that question? Because right now, I'm not sure about that. As you take a look at this, most of us are totally unaware. I wish that we could see ourselves on video camera sometimes and to be able to see how we respond, because then you could see your blind spot. The weird thing is that sometimes people, even on camera, will say, that looks like me, but I didn't say that. All right, number 10. Character flaws require repair, or they just get bigger. Character flaws require repair, or they get bigger. Now let me tell you about a young woman, big hero of my daughter, although we've never met her. Grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. Her name is Taylor Swift. Ever heard of her?
Yep.
So Taylor Swift went from being a country singer to a pop singer. And Taylor Swift, as a young woman, hard to be famous in the public eye. And Taylor Swift dated some boys, and then apparently some of these boys were not nice to her, and so she wrote songs about it. And then her critics really started saying, "Oh my goodness gracious, you mean that boy was bad to you and you talked about it? No, you're just supposed to suck that up." And so after a couple of years, Pat, it's interesting to me, because my daughter educated me about this. This is Taylor Swift's 1989. That was the year she was born. And this album, 1989, kind of interesting. This album is the #1 album in the last 10 years. This album of a 25-year-old, this is the first female artist to ever be on that list of having 2 songs in the top 100. First woman to ever be on the list, ever. She's topped the charts in Canada, South Africa, Australia, and Europe. This was listed as the best album by Time Magazine, Rolling Stone Magazine, pop, jazz critics. Everyone has ranked this as #1. Now here's why I tell you that. Here's the purpose of the story. She's been criticized for years. And instead of getting beat up by it, instead of going like some of the pop stars and just going to drugs and alcohol and bad choices and trying to medicate the pain, she did something particularly creative and something I'm so proud of this young woman about. She said, "I'm just going to write songs about it." So if you want to criticize me and you want to say I'm crazy, then you know what? I'll just write a song about it. And I think it's not just the popularity of this young woman who's maintained a pretty wholesome image. It's the fact that she said, "Oh, has somebody criticized you? Here's a way to handle that." And I think it's empowered a lot of people to say, you know what, just because you criticize me, I'm not going to let you destroy me. I'm going to write a song about it. And one of her songs talking about that, shake it off. Just shake it off. Somebody's criticizing you, attacking you, somebody's shooting arrows at you, shake it off. Shake it off. Shake it off. Shake it off. Telling you. Ooh, 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 ooh. I gotta do the ooh, ooh, ooh. Shake it off. Shake it off. Just try that. Just try that. Just shake it off. Shake it off. Yeah, doesn't that feel good? Just shake it off. Just shake it off. Because when all those critics are coming, just shake it off. Just shake it off. Now, how do we solve this? Finding a temporary solution for character flaws. Now, here are the temporary solutions. You make choices. You get accountability. It's interesting. The 19th century social philosopher Jerry Bentham wrote, the more strictly we are watched, the better we behave. So you get some accountability. Because accountability of knowing you're going to get caught will help you with that Achilles heel. That's why most temptations don't come in the middle of the daylight. They come at 2 o'clock in the morning. They come when you're sitting alone at the house by yourself. Temptations don't come when you're sitting in the middle of a crowd of people, especially a crowd of good friends. No, good friends will hold you accountable. Temptations come usually when you're alone. Remember, Jesus was alone when Satan tempted him. So you make different choices. I call that NRT, next right thing. What's the next right thing you can do to be able to keep you moving toward the battle? You get accountability. You get understanding. Understanding. You listen. Listen to the experts. Listen to your friends. Listen to pastors and priests and rabbis and people challenging you toward morality and a greater purpose. Listen. Keep walking. Keep walking. And to keep walking means keep moving toward the battle. If you turn away from your Achilles heel, you're totally vulnerable. If you say, why, I could never be tempted with that, well, maybe you've never tried prescription drug addiction. Because prescription drug addiction is a 10-time bigger problem in our culture than illegal drugs. You know, from working around broadcasters, a lot of my friends smoke. I never have. But a lot of my very close friends do. It's not good for their voice. It makes it gravelly sounding. But the interesting thing is how quickly people will judge them for smoking. And it's interesting because it's not healthy. But I remember one of my very dear friends is a guy named Steve Brown. He's a retired Presbyterian pastor. It's a very deep voice, and he smokes a pipe. And back when you could smoke in restaurants in Florida, and I would try to help him. I'd say, you don't need to smoke that pipe. And he'd say, you don't need to get the cream sauce on that fettuccine Alfredo. And I would say, let's both agree to disagree on this one. It'll be fine. Yeah, put some cheese on top. Just sprinkle it. Just a little more. Okay, good. Because he would say, more people die from diabetes and clinical problems from being overweight than die from tobacco. And I said, I don't think that's true. So we both agreed that we need to work on that and help each other. Because isn't that what friends do? So as I take a look at this, to be able to keep walking toward the challenges in your life, because for most of us, the Achilles heels come out when we're stressed and fearful. Now, most people ignore their character flaws. Instead of facing it, they ignore it. They minimize. Minimizing is saying, she started the fight. It's not my fault. They rationalize. My child doing drugs is okay. He smokes a little pot. It's no big deal. Your child being gay, that's not okay. Okay, that's rationalization. They justify. It's okay for me to have a racist point of view, but it's not okay for other people to do that. Remember when we looked at discrimination? The greatest discrimination facing Americans today is age discrimination. If you're 62 years old and you still want to work in a lot of companies, you're in trouble. Because of age discrimination. It's real. Don't believe it? Go talk to some of the beached males. Beached males are people who are well educated, they have a lot of experience, and they're beached, they're thrown away by their companies between the ages of 57 and 65. Even though they've got more experience than anybody, they draw a bigger paycheck, and many companies ditch them because of age discrimination. It's real. You take a look at this. Blame shifting. Blame shifting. When you blame shift, minimize, justify, rationalize, is saying, it's okay for me to go on those cruise ships and gamble, it's just not okay for you to go to Las Vegas. They have temptation in Las Vegas. But on the cruise ship, it's just entertainment. Blame shifting, justifying. It's okay for me to spend all day on Facebook, commenting on other people. It's not okay for you to spend all day watching golf. It's just, let's get honest. Wasted time is wasted time. Ignoring. Ignoring, for me, the biggest one on ignoring is entertainment. Using media to just go numb. Again, the average American, 4 hours a day between social media, mainstream media, television, thousands of channels. Why do they do that? I think it's to turn their brain off. I think it's because they don't want to think about their life, so they're trying to turn their brain off and they just go numb. Attacking is another one. Sometimes with blind spots and sometimes with Achilles heels, you start to bring it up and they just go off and they're, just venting and how dare you, and they start attacking your Achilles heel. This one's interesting. You bring it up about them and they just start attacking you. Boom, 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 because they don't want to face what's going on in their own life, but until you face it, you can't do anything about it. So take a look at this. The next principle I want you to see, you have to face it. You have to face the truth. Truth transforms, deception destroys. Truth transforms, deception's destroyed. Here's a cover of Bloomberg Business talking about lies, 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 and of course, feature story, Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong at one time was the most revered athlete. But Lance Armstrong, it was found out after a decade or so, cheated and lied about it. And when they said, how are you so strong? It was performance-enhancing drugs. And so, if you continue to lie, deception will continue to destroy you. Today, Lance Armstrong is facing bankruptcy of his companies personally because no one wants to have him on their team. Lying and trying to cover up, and eventually it destroys you. But truth will transform you. Truth will transform you. So is there a cure for all of this? Yes. It's God's Word. Time in God's Word. You have to see it honestly, and that's how you solve it. You honestly see your Achilles heel. You see that character flaw. That's how you take the step toward solving it. And we get the information from 2 Peter chapter 1. I'm going to pick it up in verse 3. God's divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life. Circle that. Everything we need for a godly life. Circle everything we need for a godly life. God has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. Through these, He has given us His very great and precious promises so that through them you may participate in the divine nature, and watch this, having escaped the corruption in the world caused by evil desires. And next to evil desires, would you write Achilles heel? Achilles heel. Because the promise that God gave us was, hey, I can protect you, but you've got to spend time with me, and we spend time with God right here. We spend time in His Word. Verse 5, for this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith. Here we go. You have to start. This only works if you're a believer. Only works if you're a believer. Make every effort to add to your faith goodness, knowledge, self-control, perseverance, godliness, mutual affection, and love. Because Peter is writing to a persecuted people. They were going through a very hard time. They were being persecuted because of their faith in Christ. And Peter said, you know what, this persecution, it's going to bring out some evil desires. But don't panic. Here's what you do about it. You have to add these things. It's not just about, oh, I believe in God. No. You have to add stuff. Peter said, if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. But whoever does not have them is nearsighted, circle it, blind. There's the blind spot. They are blind, forgetting that they have been cleansed from their past sins. And because they forget, they keep repeating the past sins. He said, therefore, my brothers and sisters, make every effort to confirm your calling and election. For if you do these things, you will never stumble. Edward A. Guest, over 100 years ago, wrote these words. And think about your walk with God. See if this fits. Mr. Guest wrote, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one should walk with me than merely tell the way. The eye's a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Find counsel is confusing, but your example is always clear. And the best of all the preachers are the men who live their creeds, for to see a good put in action is what everybody needs. I can soon learn how to do it if you'll show me how it's done. I can watch your hand in action, but your tongue too fast may run. And the lectures you deliver may be very wise and true, but I'd rather get my lesson by observing what you do. For I may misunderstand you in the high advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding how you act and how you live. So when you think about your Achilles heel, how you doing? Could you be like the Apostle Paul who said, if you want to be a Christian, just watch how I live. Just do that. You okay with that? What a great description. Because if you're marching into the battle, it's not that Paul didn't have weaknesses. It's that he didn't let his weaknesses consume him. And you and I don't have to do that either. That's what Peter is writing about. So here's the formula. I put it down as a scorecard on the bottom of your page. And score yourself and just put a check mark by them. Would you say that you have faith? If you're a believer in Christ, you can check that one, right? Would you say that you have self-control, mutual affection, goodness, perseverance, knowledge, godliness, and love? How you doing? Just check them if you do them. And then you score yourself your total out of 8, okay? Because that shows you how well you're doing with your Achilles heels. I scored myself as 1 out of 8. I know I'm a believer. Working on the other ones. Working on the other ones. And how do you work on the other ones? Oh, it's simple. You spend more time here than you do here. If you spend more time in God's Word than you do keeping your electronics plugged in, you know what happens? Now all of a sudden you're adding to your faith godliness and goodness and self-control. You're adding all of the things that you need to be able to show to other people, hey, here's what our faith is about. Once I was blind and lost in all of my secret sins, and now I can see. There's a wonderful devotional written by a counselor who worked with girls coming out of sexual slavery, prostitution. Her name is Sarah Young. The devotional is called Jesus Calling. It's a wonderful devotional. And here's what she said on November the 2nd. Just because you may be weak doesn't mean that God isn't with you. In your weakness, God is even closer to you. God wants you to grow stronger through Him. He is shining His light on you so that you can do so. His Spirit is always in you, keeping you strong. Sometimes you just don't realize it, and you feel weak, and you feel alone, and that's not true. You're never alone. Don't be so hard on yourself because you keep falling and need help. Go to God for help. Go to Him and tell Him all you need. God will comfort you. Train yourself not to complain when you struggle, but to get up and thank Him for all He blesses you with. Doing that shows that you trust Him and know that He is with you and He has you safe in His arms. So when those arrows are coming at you, what do? How do you cope? You call out to Him, because if God is carrying you in His arms, you don't have to worry about your Achilles heel. You're protected. Those arrows, they'll bounce off. God never wanted you to live the Christian life alone. But if you ignore Him, and we do that by ignoring His Word, and you're on your own, you're going to keep stumbling. It'll be like kryptonite. You'll keep feeling weak and powerless. But if you'll say, I refuse that, God help me, He will. All you have to do is cry out for help and spend time with Him, and you won't have to worry about your Achilles heel ever again. Let's pray that we do. God, thank you for your goodness and grace. Thank you that because of your word, I don't have to live in fear of these secret sins. Help us to live better today and tomorrow, and may our life be an example to others because of our time in CALMClass. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. See you next week. Hi, Dwight Bain here, and I want to tell you about CALMClass.com. The website that you came to is actually a teaching lesson that we record in Orlando, Florida, every single week. You can actually come be part of the live audience. If you're in Florida, maybe you're visiting the Orlando area, come check us out. We meet at 3000 South John Young Parkway. It's on the campus of First Baptist Orlando, which is actually a pretty large place. So what you're looking for is a large building by a lake. It's a big 3-story building called Faith Hall. And we're in Faith Hall, upstairs in room 301. But if you don't get a chance to come live to the presentation in Orlando, then if these lessons about making your life work better, to get past frustration in relationships, maybe frustrations on the job, maybe you're just kind of feeling beat up about what you believe. If you enjoy these lessons, would you do me a favor? Would you tell a friend? Because by your experience of telling other people, hey, this website helped me, these lessons helped me, when you're doing that, you're helping take the message that we teach in Orlando and to be able to spread that to the entire world. And thanks.